She witnessed the execution. The maid, in the blue uniform, saw everything, and now the Mafia boss won't let her go. She's mine to protect now. She witnessed the execution. Gracelyn's white-gloved hands left smudges on the polished brass doorknob as she reached to pull the penthouse suite door closed. It shouldn't have been open. She'd checked this hallway twice already, and Suite 2401 had a Do Not Disturb sign hanging on the handle all morning. But now the door stood ajar, just 3 inches, enough to violate every protocol she'd been trained to follow. The morning light streaming through the mahogany-paneled corridor felt too bright, too exposing. Her cleaning cart stood silent behind her, supplies organized with the military precision she'd learned from 6 years working at the Astoria Grand Hotel. Everything in its place. Everything predictable. Safe. She should have walked away. Instead, she pushed the door open another inch, peering through the gap. The suite's marble entryway stretched before her, pristine except for the man kneeling in the center of the living room beyond. His hands were zip-tied behind his back, his expensive suit jacket torn at the shoulder. Blood trickled from his temple, dark against his pale skin. Standing over him was Floyd Baker. Gracelyn's breath caught. She'd seen his photograph in the newspapers her supervisor kept hidden beneath the reception desk. The articles always used the same words: alleged crime boss, suspected organized crime, powerful business magnate with rumored underworld connections. But the photos never captured the way he commanded space, the deadly stillness in his posture as he pressed a gun, to the kneeling man's head. "You stole from me, Marcus." Floyd's voice was arctic, each word precise as a scalpel. "Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" The kneeling man, Marcus, sobbed. "Please, Floyd, I can explain." The gunshot cracked through Gracelyn's bones like thunder splitting sky. She gasped. The sound escaped before she could stop it, a sharp intake of breath that seemed to echo in the sudden, terrible silence. Floyd's head turned. Slowly, deliberately. Their eyes met through the doorway gap. His were ice blue and utterly calm, the eyes of a man who'd just executed another human being with the same emotional investment as signing a check. But as they locked onto hers, something shifted in them. Calculation, recognition, interest. Gracelyn's cart crashed as she ran. The supplies scattered across the hallway, spray bottles, rags, her carefully organized schedule clipboard, but she was already 10 feet down the corridor, her sensible work shoes pounding against the carpet. The emergency exit. If she could just reach the emergency exit. Strong hands caught her before she made it to the stairwell. They gripped her upper arms with bruising force, yanking her backward. She opened her mouth to scream, but a palm clamped over it, muffling the sound. Her blue uniform twisted as she thrashed. Her carefully pinned name tag, Gracelyn Williams, housekeeping, glinting in the hallway's recessed lighting. "Let me go, please. I didn't see anything." The words tumbled out muffled and desperate against the hand silencing her. "Bring her back." The command came from behind her, delivered in that same deadly calm voice. Floyd Baker. Close enough now that she could smell his cologne. Something expensive and dark, cedar and smoke. The hands dragging her didn't hesitate. She fought, heels scraping against carpet, but it was useless. Within seconds, she was back at Suite 2401. The door stood wide open now, no longer hiding secrets. The body, Marcus's body, lay crumpled on the marble floor, blood pooling beneath his head in a spreading crimson stain. Gracelyn's stomach lurched. She'd cleaned blood before, bodily fluids, all the things hotel maids dealt with that guests never thought about. But this was different. This was murder. Floyd stood exactly where she'd left him, gun now held loosely at his side. Up close, he was even more imposing than his photographs suggested. 6'3", maybe more, with dark hair swept back from a face that belonged on magazine covers. Sharp cheekbones, strong jaw, full lips that somehow made him look even more dangerous. His charcoal suit was immaculate, despite what he'd just done. Crisp white shirt unbuttoned at the collar. His finger reached out, traced the edge of her name tag with deliberate slowness. Gracelyn. He read it like he was tasting the syllables. Beautiful name. She tried to pull away, but the men holding her, 2 of them, she realized now, both in black suits, both with the cold eyes of professionals, tightened their grip. Floyd's hand moved up, tipping her chin with the same fingers that had just pulled a trigger. His touch was surprisingly gentle, almost tender, which somehow made it more terrifying. Here's your situation, sweetheart. His thumb brushed across her trembling bottom lip, and she flinched. You witnessed a murder. Do you understand what that means? Gracelyn's voice came out as a whisper. I won't tell anyone. I swear. I'll forget I ever saw. No. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. You won't forget, and neither will they. They? Every crime family in this city who wants me dead. He released her chin, stepping back to study her like she was a painting in a gallery. The Castellanos, the Irish mob, the Yakuza connections. They all have people in this hotel, Gracelyn. They saw you come to this floor. By now, they know you entered this suite. Her knees went weak. The men holding her were the only thing keeping her upright. Which means, Floyd continued, his voice dropping lower, more intimate, every one of them will hunt you. Not to kill you, not right away. First, they'll take you somewhere quiet, somewhere soundproof. They'll ask you questions about what you saw, what I said, what I did. They'll use knives, pliers, blowtorches, whatever makes you talk fastest. Tears burned behind Gracelyn's eyes. No, no, please. And after you've told them everything, he said, ignoring her plea, after you've screamed yourself hoarse and begged for death, they'll kill you anyway, because witnesses are loose ends, and loose ends get people killed. The hallway tilted. Gracelyn couldn't breathe, couldn't think past the images his words painted. Torture, pain, death, in a soundproof room where no one would hear her scream. Floyd moved closer again, his presence overwhelming. Or, he said softly, you can let me protect you. Protect me? The words came out bitter, hysterical. You just killed a man. I executed a traitor. His eyes hardened. There's a difference, and that traitor's friends will come looking for anyone who can testify about what happened here. They'll want revenge. They'll want leverage. You're both now. His hand cupped her face, forcing her to meet his gaze. Your choice, Gracelyn. Run, and they'll find you within 24 hours. Or come with me and I'll make sure you live to see tomorrow. She stared at him. This beautiful monster who'd just shattered her safe, predictable world. Behind him, Marcus's body cooling on expensive marble. Around them, the luxury suite that had become a crime scene. And in his ice-blue eyes, something that looked almost like genuine concern beneath the calculated control. What's it going to be, sweetheart? His thumb brushed away a tear she didn't remember shedding. Them or me? Gracelyn's voice broke on the only answer that made sense. The only answer that might keep her alive. You. Floyd's smile was triumphant, and somehow sad at the same time. Smart girl. He nodded to his men, and they released her arms. Gracelyn swayed, catching herself against the doorframe. Her blue uniform was wrinkled now, her careful composure shattered like the supplies scattered down the hallway. "Bring her to the car," Floyd ordered, already turning away. "And someone clean this up. Make it look like Marcus never existed." As hands, gentler now, but still firm, guided Gracelyn toward the service elevator, she caught one last glimpse of Suite 2401. The luxury penthouse where she'd thought the worst thing she'd face today was hard water stains and demanding guests. The door clicked shut behind them, and Gracelyn Williams, hotel maid, rule follower, invisible woman in a blue uniform, disappeared into Floyd Baker's world. She'd witnessed the execution. Now she belonged to him. Whether that meant salvation or damnation, she'd find out soon enough. The estate was 40 minutes outside the city, hidden behind walls that looked decorative, but Floyd's security chief assured her were reinforced with steel. Gracelyn watched through tinted windows as they passed armed guards at 3 separate checkpoints, each one nodding respectfully as Floyd's car rolled through. She'd imagined a dark mansion, something gothic and oppressive. Instead, the house that came into view was modern elegance. Clean lines of glass and stone, surrounded by manicured lawns that looked like they belonged in a luxury magazine. Beautiful, pristine, nothing like the prison she'd expected. The men who'd brought her from the hotel flanked her as they walked inside, their hands no longer gripping, but hovering, ready. The message was clear: you're not free, but we won't hurt you unless you make us. Floyd had disappeared ahead, barking orders into his phone about cleaners and alibis and making sure the Castellanos knew Marcus had died for his betrayal. A woman appeared in the foyer, older, with kind eyes and iron-gray hair pulled back in an efficient bun. She looked Gracelyn up and down, taking in the wrinkled uniform, the tear-stained face, the trembling hands. "Rosa will show you to your room," Floyd said without looking up from his phone. "Get cleaned up. We'll talk after I handle this mess." Rosa's hand on her elbow was gentle as she guided Gracelyn up a sweeping staircase. They walked down a hallway lined with abstract art that probably cost more than Gracelyn earned in a year, stopping finally at a door near the end. The bedroom was bigger than Gracelyn's entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the estate's grounds, offering a view that would have been breathtaking if it wasn't framed by the guards patrolling below, rifles slung casually over their shoulders. A king-sized bed dominated one wall, dressed in linens so white they seemed to glow. An ensuite bathroom was visible through an open door, all marble and gold fixtures. "There are clothes in the closet your size," Rosa said, her accent faintly Spanish. "Toiletries in the bathroom. If you need anything else, press the button by the bed." She paused at the door, something like sympathy crossing her features. "Don't try the windows, they're locked, and the door—" The click of the lock engaging from outside answered that question. Gracelyn was alone. She stood in the center of that beautiful, enormous room, and felt the walls close in anyway. Her legs gave out, sending her crashing to the plush carpet, and the sobs she'd been holding back since Suite 2401 finally broke free. She cried for Marcus, even though she hadn't known him. Cried for her sister, who'd be expecting a call tonight that wouldn't come. Cried for her mother in the care facility who depended on Gracelyn's paychecks to cover what insurance didn't. Cried for herself, for the life that had been stolen in the 3 seconds it took to open a door that should have stayed closed. By the time Floyd entered hours later, no knock, just the lock disengaging and the door swinging open, Gracelyn had exhausted every window, tested every piece of furniture for potential weapons, and tried the door handle 17 times. She'd stripped off her uniform, showered until her skin was raw, and put on the designer jeans and cashmere sweater she'd found in the closet, both fitting, perfectly in a way that made her skin crawl. He'd planned this, known her size, been ready. He leaned against the doorframe, changed now into dark slacks and a fitted black shirt, sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms corded with muscle. His hair was damp, face clean of the blood spatter she'd glimpsed in the car, relaxed, comfortable, like kidnapping witnesses was just another Tuesday. Done? His tone was amused, watching her freeze mid-stride toward him. Let me go. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. Please, I'll leave the city, change my name, you'll never. The Castellanos already have your face. He pulled out his phone, swiped, turned it toward her. Her employee photo from the hotel's database stared back, already circulating on encrypted channels he somehow had access to. Marcus's cousin saw you on the security feed before I could wipe it. The Irish mob has a $10,000 bounty for information on your whereabouts, and the Yakuza connections want you interrogated before disposal. The casual way he said disposal made her stomach turn. Floyd pocketed his phone, crossing his arms. I killed Marcus because he stole from me. You want to know what they'll do to you for witnessing it. The Castellanos specialize in keeping people alive for days while they work. The Irish prefer explosives. Messy, painful, sends a message. The Yakuza are artists with blades. Stop! Gracelyn pressed her hands over her ears like a child. Stop, please! He was across the room before she could blink, pulling her hands down, forcing her to look at him. His grip was firm but careful, like he was handling something fragile he didn't want to break but wouldn't let escape. I'm the only thing standing between you and a shallow grave, Floyd said, his ice-blue eyes boring into hers. You hate me right now. I understand that. But hate me alive, Gracelyn. Because the alternative is loving your freedom for exactly 3 hours before someone puts a bullet in your skull. He released her, stepping back. The house staff will bring dinner at 7. Don't throw things at them. They're not your enemies. He moved toward the door, paused. Make yourself comfortable. You'll be here a while. The lock engaged behind him with terrible finality, and Gracelyn sank onto the bed, staring at the locked door of her gilded cage. 5 days bled together like watercolors left in the rain. Gracelyn woke each morning to sunlight streaming through windows she couldn't open, ate breakfast in a sunroom that felt like a fishbowl, and spent hours in Floyd's library pretending the leather-bound books could transport her somewhere else. Anywhere else. The routine was suffocating in its luxury. Gourmet meals she barely tasted. Designer clothes she didn't choose. Freedom to roam the estate but never leave it. She tested boundaries like a scientist conducting experiments. Refused breakfast one morning. Rosa brought lunch with extra pastries and no comment, broke a crystal vase in the hallway, letting it shatter with satisfying violence. It was cleaned up within an hour, replaced by an identical one by dinner. Demanded answers about when she could contact her sister, her mother, anyone. Floyd's response came through Rosa. When it's safe, not before. The only constant was dinner. 7 o'clock every night in the formal dining room. Just her and Floyd at opposite ends of a table built for 12. An expanse of polished mahogany between them like a demilitarized zone. He'd sit there, reading reports or checking his phone, occasionally glancing up to study her with those calculating ice-blue eyes. Like she was a puzzle he was solving, piece by piece. Tonight, Gracelyn had had enough. She slammed her fork down hard enough to make the china jump. Are you going to kill me or not? Because this is worse. This waiting, this not knowing. Just get it over with. Floyd looked up from his phone, one eyebrow raised. If I wanted you dead, you'd be dead. Have some wine. I don't want wine. I want answers. She stood, chair scraping back. You've had me here almost a week. You haven't hurt me, haven't touched me, haven't—" She gestured wildly at the elegant room, the untouched food. "What is this? What do you want from me?" He set his phone down with deliberate care. "Sit down, Gracelyn." "No." Something flickered in his eyes, surprise, maybe, or respect. "Sit down, please." The please caught her off guard. She sat, but kept her spine rigid, defiant. Floyd leaned back in his chair, swirling the wine in his glass. "You want to know what I want? I want you alive. I want the Castellanos to forget about you. I want my enemies to stop seeing you as leverage." He took a sip. "I want to not attend your funeral." "How noble," she said bitterly. "The monster has a conscience." "I never claimed to be good." His voice went cold. "I've killed 37 people, Gracelyn. Some deserved it, some were business. A few were mistakes I still regret, but every single one of them knew the life they were in. You didn't. You were just doing your job, and I made you a target." He met her gaze. "That's on me. So yes, keeping you alive is the least I can do." She wanted to stay angry, but the exhaustion won. "My sister thinks I ran off with some boyfriend. My boss thinks I quit without notice. My mother's care facility called Rosa because I missed a payment." Her voice cracked. "You didn't just trap me here, you erased my entire life. Your sister got a text from your number saying you needed space. Your boss got a resignation letter and 2 months' salary. The care facility received 6 months' advance payment from an anonymous donor." Floyd's tone was matter-of-fact. "Your life isn't erased, it's protected. You had no right. I had every right the moment you opened that door." He stood abruptly, and she flinched despite herself. He noticed something crossing his face that looked almost like pain. "I'm not going to hurt you. When will you understand that? When you stop locking me in at night, when you let me call my family, when you give me a choice about anything." She stood too, refusing to let him tower over her. "You say you're protecting me, but all I see is another cage." Floyd moved around the table, closing the distance between them. Gracelyn held her ground even as her heart hammered. He stopped close enough that she could smell his cologne, see the faint scar above his left eyebrow she hadn't noticed before. "You want choices?" His voice dropped low, dangerous. "Choose to trust me. Choose to believe I'm not your enemy. You killed a man in front of me. I executed a traitor who would have killed me and everyone I protect if I hadn't moved first." His jaw tightened. Marcus knew the rules. He broke them. Actions have consequences in my world. Then maybe your world is wrong. The silence stretched between them, taut as a wire. Then Floyd did something unexpected. He laughed. It was short, bitter, but genuine. "Maybe it is." He pulled out his phone, thumbed through something, then handed it to her. "Here, call your sister. 5 minutes." Gracelyn stared at the phone like it might bite her. "Why?" "Because you're right. I took your choices away." He gestured impatiently. 5 minutes, Gracelyn. Take it or leave it." Her hands shook as she dialed Maya's number, memorized from years before smartphones made a remembering unnecessary. It rang once, twice. Then, "Hello? Maya?" Gracelyn's voice broke on her sister's name. "It's me? Grace? Oh my God, where are you? I've been so worried. Your text was so weird. I'm fine. I'm safe. I needed to hear your voice." Floyd was watching her, expression unreadable. She turned away, cradling the phone. "Are you in trouble?" Maya asked. "Because if some guy is making you—" "No, nothing like that." The lie tasted like ash. "I just needed a break from everything. I'll explain later, okay? How's school?" They talked for exactly 5 minutes. Maya's complaints about her economics professor, gossip about her roommate, excitement about an internship interview, normal things. Beautiful, mundane, normal things that felt like they belonged to a different universe. When Floyd cleared his throat, Gracelyn knew time was up. "I have to go," she said. "I love you. Tell Mom I love her too." "Grace, wait." She ended the call, handed the phone back. Floyd took it, their fingers brushing. Neither pulled away immediately. "Thank you," Gracelyn whispered. "Don't thank me for basic decency." He pocketed the phone, then headed for the door. Paused with his hand on the frame. "My study is down the hall, third door on the left. It's unlocked tonight if you want to talk more." An invitation, not a command. After he left, Gracelyn stood in the empty dining room, feeling the ground shift beneath her feet. An hour later, she found herself outside his study door. It was open, just a crack. Inside, Floyd sat at his desk surrounded by files and surveillance photos. She pushed the door wider. He looked up, unsurprised. "Can't sleep? Whose fault is that?" But there was no heat in it. "Fair." He gestured to the leather chair across from him. "Sit. Keep me company while I work." She shouldn't. She should go back to her beautiful prison of a room, maintain her anger, remember he was her captor. But her feet carried her forward anyway. She sat, curled into the chair, and watched him work in the lamplight. Eventually, she found herself asking questions. He answered some, deflected others. And somewhere around 2 a.m, between case files and careful conversation, Gracelyn began to see past the monster. To the man underneath, carrying weight that might crush someone smaller. Still dangerous. Still deadly. But human in ways she hadn't let herself notice before. The explosions came at dawn. Gracelyn jerked awake to the sound of windows rattling, her heart already racing before her mind caught up. Another boom shook the estate. Closer this time, and suddenly her door burst open. 3 of Floyd's guards poured in, weapons drawn, faces grim. "Get dressed, now!" The lead guard, Marcus, she'd learned his name over the past 3 weeks. The irony of sharing a name with a dead man not lost on anyone, was already pulling clothes from her closet. "Shoes, something you can run in." "What's happening?" But she was already moving, adrenaline overriding confusion. She yanked on jeans and a sweater, shoved her feet into sneakers. The Castellanos. Another guard was checking the windows, cursing under his breath. "Breach the south wall. We need to move you to the safe room." They surrounded her in formation, hustling her into the hallway. Gunfire cracked somewhere below, sharp and terrifyingly close. Gracelyn's breath came in short gasps as they rushed her down a back staircase she'd never seen before. The estate she'd thought she knew revealed hidden passages, emergency exits, layers of security she'd been oblivious to. "Where's Floyd?" she asked, stumbling on a step. "Handling it." Marcus caught her elbow, steadying her. "Don't worry about the boss. Worry about yourself." They reached the wine cellar and Marcus pressed something on the wall. A section swung open, revealing a tunnel that smelled of damp earth and concrete. Emergency lighting flickered to life. "Inside. There's a safe room at the end. Code is..." The gunshot took Marcus in the chest. He went down hard, blood spreading across his white shirt in a bloom of crimson. Gracelyn screamed. The other guards turned, weapons raised, but more shots came from behind them. From inside the house. One guard dropped, then the other. A man stepped over their bodies, gun still smoking. She recognized him. One of the newer staff members, hired just 2 weeks ago. His smile was cold as he grabbed her arm, yanking her away from the tunnel entrance. "Nothing personal, sweetheart." The bag came down over her head before she could scream again. Time fragmented into sensations. Being dragged, thrown into a vehicle. The rumble of an engine, turns that sent her sliding across what felt like a van floor. Voices arguing in Italian. The chemical smell of the bag making her gag. At some point, she must have passed out from sheer terror, because when the bag came off, everything had changed. Concrete walls, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, the smell of mildew and something metallic, blood, old and new. A basement, maybe, or a warehouse. Gracelyn was zip-tied to a metal chair bolted to the floor, her wrists already aching, circulation cutting off. The man who circled her was in his 40s, handsome in a brutal way, wearing an expensive suit that somehow made him look more dangerous. He studied her like she was a specimen under glass. Gracelyn Williams. His accent was faint but present. The maid who saw too much. Do you know who I am? She stayed silent, too terrified to speak. I'm Marcus Castellano. Well, I was Marcus Jr. Now I'm just Marcus, since Floyd Baker put 2 bullets in my father's head last year. He crouched in front of her, his smile pleasant, his eyes dead. Nothing personal, sweetheart. But Floyd took my family. Now I take what he values. I'm nothing to him, Gracelyn managed. Just a witness he's keeping quiet. Is that what he told you? Marcus laughed. The man burned down 3 of my warehouses looking for you after you were taken. Killed 16 of my people in 2 days. Sent my uncle's severed hand to my aunt with a note that said, "Return her unharmed, or collect your family in pieces." He tilted his head. That doesn't sound like nothing to me. The information crashed over her. Floyd had done that. For her, the first hit came without warning. Marcus's fist across her face, snapping her head sideways. Pain exploded through her cheekbone, stars bursting behind her eyes. She tasted copper. Where are Floyd's weapons stored? Marcus asked pleasantly. I don't know. Another hit, then another. Questions came in a steady stream. Warehouses, allies, shipping routes, police contacts. Things she'd overheard during late nights in Floyd's study. Conversations she'd been too present for. Details she hadn't realized she'd absorbed until Marcus pulled them out of her with methodical violence. But Gracelyn didn't break. Not because she was strong. She wasn't. She was terrified and in agony, and wanted it to stop more than she'd wanted anything. But because breaking meant betraying Floyd, and betraying Floyd meant becoming exactly what Marcus wanted, a weapon to destroy the man who'd protected her. Time lost meaning. Hours, maybe days. Marcus would work on her, then leave her alone in the dark. Her face swelled, ribs screamed with each breath. She drifted between consciousness and something close to hallucination. At some point she heard more gunfire, distant, shouting, then closer, right above her. The explosion rattled the basement walls. Smoke poured down the stairs. Gunfire erupted in sharp bursts, professional, controlled, deadly efficient. Marcus cursed, grabbed his gun, started for the stairs. He didn't make it 3 steps before the door at the top blew inward. Floyd came through the smoke like something out of mythology, face splattered with blood that wasn't his, gun raised, eyes scanning the room with lethal focus. They locked onto Marcus first. The shot took him in the kneecap, dropping him screaming. Then Floyd's gaze found Gracelyn. Everything in his expression shifted. The cold calculation melted into something raw, almost vulnerable. He crossed the basement in long strides, holstering his weapon, dropping to his knees in front of her chair. Jesus Christ! His hands shook, actually shook, as they cupped her battered face. Gracelyn, look at me, stay with me. You came, she whispered through split lips, Of course I came. He was cutting through her zip ties, catching her as she slumped forward. Did you think I wouldn't? Behind them, Marcus writhed on the ground, clutching his destroyed knee. Floyd stood with Gracelyn cradled against his chest, pulled his gun with his free hand, and fired once. Marcus stopped moving. Can you walk? Floyd asked her gently. Don't think so. Then I'll carry you. He adjusted his grip, lifting her like she weighed nothing. More of his men appeared in the doorway, securing the exit. Floyd moved toward them, then paused, looked back at Marcus's body. Burn it. Burn everything. The drive back was a blur. Gracelyn drifted in and out, aware of Floyd's arms around her, his voice on the phone issuing orders that sounded like war. At some point they reached the estate, or what was left of it. Smoke still rose from the damaged south wing. In the medical room, as a doctor Floyd had on retainer cleaned her wounds and checked for serious damage, Floyd stood against the wall, hands clenched into fists, watching every move with lethal attention. Boss, one of his men said quietly, the Castellano properties. Erase them, Floyd said without looking away from Gracelyn. All of them. I want that family name removed from this city's history. When they were finally alone, Floyd sat on the edge of the medical bed, careful not to jostle her bandaged ribs. His hand found hers, gripping tight. I thought I lost you, he said, voice barely above a whisper. And Gracelyn realized, as she squeezed back, she hadn't wanted to be found by anyone else. The city burned for 3 days. Gracelyn watched from the estate's rebuilt terrace, her ribs still wrapped in bandages, bruises fading from purple to green. Below, news helicopters circled smoke plumes rising from what used to be Castellano territory. The reports called it gang warfare, turf disputes, the inevitable implosion of a crime family. They had no idea they were witnessing systematic erasure. Floyd hadn't slept. She could see it in the hollows under his eyes, the tight set of his jaw as he coordinated operations from his study. Men came and went at all hours with reports she wasn't supposed to hear but did anyway. The warehouse district, gone. The Castellano Shipping Company, liquidated. Its assets seized by shell corporations Floyd controlled. Family members fleeing to Chicago, Miami, overseas. The ones who stayed disappeared quietly, no bodies ever found. He was making good on his promise, removing them from history. On the third night, Floyd finally came back to the estate covered in blood. Not his own. It never seemed to be his own. Gracelyn was in the library, pretending to read, when she heard the door open. He stood in the doorway, tie gone, shirt sleeves rolled up, dark stains across his chest and hands. You should be resting, he said, voice hoarse from shouting orders. You should be sleeping. She set down her book. How many today? 16. No hesitation, no shame. All of them chose to stay loyal to Marcus's memory. I gave them opportunities to walk away. And they didn't take them. No. He moved to the bar cart, poured whiskey with hands that had steadied since that night in the basement. Does it scare you what I'm capable of? Gracelyn studied him. This man who'd killed 16 people today and would probably kill more tomorrow. Who'd stormed through enemy territory to find her. Who'd carried her out while executing her torturer without breaking stride. Monster and protector wrapped in the same blood-stained package. It should, she said quietly. But you came for me. You tore apart an entire crime family because they hurt me. They took what was mine. He downed the whiskey in one swallow. That can't stand. Is that what I am, a possession? Floyd turned, really looked at her for the first time since entering. You're under my protection. That makes you untouchable, inviolable. He crossed to her, crouched beside her chair so their eyes were level. They needed to understand the cost of touching you. His hand came up, traced the fading bruise on her cheekbone with devastating gentleness. The same hands that had killed 16 men today trembled against her skin. "Thank you," Gracelyn whispered, "for coming for me." Something broke in his expression. He leaned forward, pressed his forehead to hers, eyes closed. "I couldn't breathe until I found you. 3 days of checking every location, torturing information out of anyone who might know. I thought—" His voice cracked. "I thought they'd already killed you. But they didn't." She brought her hand up, covered his. "I'm here because of you." They stayed like that, breathing the same air until Floyd's phone buzzed. He pulled back, checked it, his expression hardening back into the mask she recognized. "The bosses are meeting tomorrow night, emergency summit about the Castellano situation." He stood, pocketed the phone. "I need to make a statement." "What kind of statement?" His smile was cold, the kind that ensures this never happens again. The next evening, Gracelyn helped him dress. Not because he needed help, Floyd could tie a bow tie in his sleep, but because her hands on his collar smoothing his jacket felt like reclaiming normalcy. He watched her in the mirror, those ice-blue eyes tracking her every movement. "You should stay here," he said. "This meeting could get ugly. Then you'll need backup. Gracelyn, I'm coming." She met his gaze in the reflection. "They need to see. I'm not just some victim you're hiding. I'm choosing this, choosing you." Something shifted in his expression, dangerous and possessive and almost tender. "All right, but you stay beside me, don't leave my sight." The meeting was in a downtown building Floyd owned, top floor, every entrance monitored. The remaining crime bosses arrived in armored cars with full security details. Irish, Russian, remnants of smaller families. They eyed each other with suspicion and eyed Floyd with barely concealed fear. Gracelyn stood beside him in a black dress Rosa had selected, understated elegance that somehow commanded attention. The room fell silent when they entered. Floyd didn't sit. He stood at the head of the table, one hand resting on the back of Gracelyn's chair as she took her seat. The message was clear. She belonged here, beside him, under his protection. "Gentlemen," Floyd's voice carried absolute authority, "we're here to discuss the Castellano situation. Consider it resolved." "Resolved?" The Irish boss, O'Sullivan, she'd learned, leaned forward. "You started a war, Baker, burned half the city. I ended a threat." Floyd's tone went arctic. "Marcus Castellano kidnapped and tortured this woman." His hand tightened on her chair. "She's under my protection. She bears my name now." Gracelyn's head snapped up. They hadn't discussed this, but Floyd pulled a ring box from his pocket, opened it to reveal a sapphire surrounded by diamonds, cold and beautiful like the man offering it. "Anyone who threatens her, touches her, even thinks about her wrong," Floyd continued, his gaze sweeping the room, "will discover that what I did to the Castellanos was merciful compared to what comes next." O'Sullivan stood, face red. "You can't just—" The gunshot echoed like thunder. O'Sullivan screamed, clutching his kneecap as he collapsed. Floyd hadn't even looked away from the other bosses, gun already holstered again. "Any other questions?" Silence. Absolute silence except for O'Sullivan's whimpering. Floyd turned to Gracelyn, dropped to one knee beside her chair. The room faded, the bosses, the bleeding man, the violence. All that existed was Floyd's hand holding the ring, his eyes on hers. "Will you stay?" he asked quietly, just for her. Not as prisoner, but as partner? She should say no. should run from this world of blood and power and casual brutality. But she looked at this man who'd raised a city for her, who killed without hesitation but trembled when he touched her face, who was offering her a choice for the first time since that morning in Suite 2401. "Under one condition," Gracelyn said. "No more decisions about my life without my input. We're partners. That means equal footing." Floyd's smile was genuine, transforming his face. "Equal footing," he agreed. "Then yes." She took the ring, slid it onto her finger. The sapphire caught the light, throwing blue fire across the table. "I'll stay." Floyd stood, pulled her up with him, and kissed her, claiming and tender at once. When they broke apart, the remaining bosses were already leaving, dragging O'Sullivan with them. "That went well," Gracelyn said dryly. Floyd laughed, the sound rusty but real. "Welcome to my world, Mrs. Baker." She looked at the ring, at the man beside her, at the future she'd just chosen. Our world now. 6 months transformed everything. Gracelyn stood in the boardroom of Baker Holdings, presenting quarterly projections to executives who'd once run empires but now answered to her. She wore Armani instead of a maid's uniform, her hair styled in a sleek twist, the sapphire ring catching light as she gestured to the presentation screen. Numbers, profit margins, occupancy rates across their hotel portfolio. She spoke their language now, but with insights none of them possessed. "The Astoria Grand is underperforming in guest satisfaction despite strong bookings," she said, pulling up data. "Housekeeping staff are overworked, undertrained, and the turnover rate is destroying service quality. I'm proposing we increase wages by 15%, reduce room quotas, and implement the training program I've outlined." The CFO shifted uncomfortably. "That's a significant cost increase for minimal return." "The return is guests who come back and staff who stay." Gracelyn's tone was firm, but not harsh. "I cleaned those rooms for 6 years. I know exactly where the system fails. Fix the foundation, everything else follows." Floyd watched from his seat at the head of the table, a slight smile playing at his lips. He hadn't said a word during her presentation, letting her command the room on her own authority. When the executives finally nodded agreement, she caught his eye. He gave her an almost imperceptible nod of approval. After the meeting, she found him in his office, loosening his tie. "You didn't have to stay silent the whole time," she said, closing the door behind her. "You didn't need my help." He pulled her close, hands settling on her waist. "They respect you because you've earned it, not because you're wearing my ring. Some of them still see me as the maid who got lucky. Then they're idiots." His kiss was soft, familiar now in ways that still surprised her. "You've revolutionized 3 properties in 6 months. Our employee retention is up 40%. Guest satisfaction scores are the highest they've been in a decade." He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "You're not lucky, Gracelyn. You're brilliant." She'd learned to accept his compliments, though they still made something warm bloom in her chest. This version of Floyd, the one who asked instead of commanded, who shared vulnerability along with strength, was a revelation. But she'd also learned he wasn't always this man. Couldn't be, given the world he navigated. That night proved it. They were in Floyd's study. Their study now, she'd claimed half the desk space and he'd surrendered it without argument. When Marcus, the head of security, entered with a tablet, his expression was grim. "We have a situation. One of the hotels, the Continental downtown." He pulled up surveillance footage. A maid witnessed a transaction in the parking garage. Drugs, weapons, cash, the buyers know she saw. Gracelyn's blood went cold, memories of Suite 2401 crashing back. She moved closer to watch the footage. A young woman, maybe 22, terrified, being cornered by two men in suits. Floyd's jaw tightened. "Bring her here, full security detail. I want her off property within the hour." "Boss?" Marcus hesitated. "The buyers are Volkov's people. Russians. They're asking for her as a gesture of goodwill for the Northern Territory deal." "Absolutely not. It's a significant deal. Walking away costs us millions and pisses off the Bratva." Floyd stood, violence radiating from him like heat. "I don't care if it costs us billions. We don't trade people. Not for territory, not for peace, not for anything." His voice went deadly quiet. "Get the girl. Now." After Marcus left, Gracelyn watched her husband pace, the controlled monster she recognized from that first morning bleeding through the partner she'd come to know. "There's another way," she said carefully. "No." He turned on her. "Don't ask me to negotiate with them. Don't ask me to compromise on this. I'm not." She stood, moved into his space. "But killing Volkov's people starts another war. We just finished the last one." "Then what do you suggest?" The question wasn't dismissive. He genuinely wanted her input, even when fury was coursing through him. Gracelyn thought back to her own terror, being hunted for witnessing something she shouldn't have seen. Then she thought about Rosa, about the staff at the estate, about all the people Floyd had saved over the years. "We relocate her. New identity, new city, education, a job at one of our properties out of state." She held his gaze. "And we tell Volkov we handled it internally. The witness is gone, no longer a problem, but we don't hand over our people. It's a principle, not negotiable." Floyd studied her for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone, called Marcus back. "Change of plans, relocation protocol. I want her in Denver by morning, enrolled in hospitality management courses, working at the Baker Denver within a week." He paused and set up a meeting with Volkov. "Tell him I'm handling the situation my way. He can accept it or find another partner for the Northern Territory." After he hung up, Gracelyn wrapped her arms around him from behind. She felt the tension slowly drain from his shoulders. "You changed me," he said quietly. "Before you, I would have either killed them all or handed her over to keep the peace. Now I'm looking for the third option." "You always had the third option. You just needed someone to point it out." He turned in her arms, cupped her face. "My conscience." "Your partner," she corrected. "Partners keep each other honest." That weekend, Maya visited, her first time seeing the estate, meeting Floyd properly. Gracelyn watched her sister's eyes go wide at the grounds, the guards, the casual wealth that had become her normal. "This is insane," Maya whispered as they walked through the gardens. "Grace, are you sure about all this? The news says, he's not a good man," Gracelyn said, the same words she'd told herself countless times. "But he's my man, and I'm not a victim anymore, Maya. I'm exactly where I choose to be." "But do you love him?" Her sister's question was knife-sharp, cutting through all the rationalizations. Gracelyn looked back toward the house, where Floyd stood on the terrace watching them, ensuring they were safe even in their private conversation. The monster who'd killed for her. The partner who'd learned to ask instead of take. The man who wore her influence like she wore his ring, proof of transformation. "Yes," she said simply. "I do." They married 2 weeks later in the estate gardens. Crime bosses in expensive suits mingled awkwardly with Maya and her college friends, with Gracelyn's mother in her wheelchair, confused but happy. Rosa cried through the whole ceremony. Floyd's vows were simple. "I promise to protect you, partner with you, and love you for exactly who you are, the woman strong enough to change a monster." Gracelyn's were equally direct. I promise to challenge you, stand beside you, and love you even when you make it difficult, which is often. The guests laughed. Floyd smiled that rare, genuine smile reserved only for her. As they danced their first dance, Gracelyn caught sight of her reflection in the ballroom windows. Designer gown, diamond earrings, sapphire ring blazing. She looked like she belonged in this world of power and violence and impossible choices. Because she did. Not as the maid who witnessed everything, but as the woman who'd seen it all, and chosen to stay anyway. The Shanghai summit was Floyd's idea, but Gracelyn's execution. She stood in the penthouse suite of their hotel, neutral territory, every detail calibrated for diplomacy, adjusting the seating arrangements one final time. Not a throne at the head, but a round table. No hierarchy, just equals. The Irish, Russians, Yakuza, and what remained of the Italian families would arrive within the hour, each nursing grudges that went back generations. Floyd watched from the doorway, arms crossed. "You sure about this?" "No." She moved a water glass 3 inches left, achieving perfect symmetry. But violence hasn't worked. Maybe hospitality will. When the bosses arrived, suspicion preceded them like cologne. They eyed each other, hands hovering near concealed weapons, centuries of bloodshed written in their rigid postures. Gracelyn greeted each one personally, remembering names, asking after families with genuine interest that disarmed more effectively than any show of force. "Gentlemen?" She took her seat beside Floyd, the sapphire ring catching light as she gestured to the table. "Thank you for coming. We're here because the current territorial disputes are costing everyone. Money, people, stability. I'm proposing something radical. Cooperation." The Russian boss, Volkov, laughed harshly. "With all respect, Mrs. Baker, this is not a hotel you're managing. These are blood feuds." "Blood feuds that started over territory none of you actually need." She pulled up a digital map on the screen behind her. "The waterfront. Everyone wants it, nobody controls it, so everyone bleeds for it. I'm suggesting we make it a free zone. Each family gets equal access, equal percentage of profits. No ownership, just partnership." "That's insane," the Irish representative said. "Why would we trust?" "Because the alternative is what happened to the Castellanos." Floyd's voice was ice. "Extinction. Or you could try Gracelyn's way, see if there's profit in peace." For 2 hours, she navigated egos and ancient hatreds with the same skills she'd once used to manage demanding hotel guests, acknowledging grievances without validating violence, offering face-saving compromises that let everyone claim victory. When the Yakuza rep demanded blood price for a slain lieutenant, she suggested a memorial fund for families of those lost on all sides, restitution without revenge. Slowly, impossibly, the tension shifted. Questions became less hostile, more practical. By the time they broke for dinner, a meal Gracelyn had personally planned to honor each culture's preferences, the bosses were talking directly to each other instead of through proxies. Volkov approached her as she stood by the windows, the city spreading below like a kingdom of lights. "You're good at this," he said quietly, "making monsters behave like men. They're men who've forgotten they have options besides violence." She met his gaze. "I just remind them. Your husband is lucky." "No." Floyd's voice came from behind them, one hand settling on Gracelyn's waist. "I'm smart. There's a difference." That night, in their private suite, Floyd pulled her close as Shanghai glittered beyond the glass. "You did something I couldn't. Made them see reason. You made them afraid to refuse." She turned in his arms. "We're effective together." His kiss was soft, reverent. My empire builder. 3 days later, back at the estate, the call came about another incident. A maid at the Continental, witness to a weapons deal in the parking garage. Floyd's jaw tightened, that old dangerous stillness settling over him. "Bring her here," he said into the phone. "I'll handle it." Gracelyn's hand covered his. "There's another way." "Gracelyn, listen to me." She waited until he met her eyes. Relocation, new identity, education, a job at one of our properties somewhere safe. The same choice you gave me, protection without prison. Floyd stared at her, war visible in his expression. Then he spoke into the phone. Change of plans, relocation protocol. Set her up in Seattle, full scholarship to hospitality school. Position at the Baker Seattle when she graduates. After he hung up, Gracelyn wrapped her arms around him from behind. "You're changing. You're changing me." His hands covered hers. "I used to solve problems with bullets, now solve them with you." "Not just me, you always had this in you." She pressed her cheek to his back. "I just helped you find it." The witness arrived that evening, young, terrified, painfully familiar. Gracelyn sat with her in the library, explaining the plan while Floyd watched from the doorway. The girl cried with relief, gratitude pouring out in incoherent waves. "Why?" she finally asked. "Why help me?" Gracelyn touched the chain around her neck, her old name tag, Gracelyn Williams, housekeeping, kept as a talisman. "Because someone gave me a choice when I thought I had none. I'm returning the favor." That sunset, they stood on the estate balcony, Floyd's arms around her waist, both surveying the grounds that had become their kingdom. The city glowed in the distance, full of hotels they owned, people they protected, an empire built on blood but maintained through something more complicated. "Do you regret it?" Floyd asked quietly. "Staying?" Gracelyn turned, cupped his face with both hands. The monster who'd executed a man before her eyes. The partner who'd learned mercy through her influence. The husband who protected without possessing, who discovered that true power meant knowing when not to use it. Not for a second. She kissed him softly. "You gave me a choice. I chose you." His hand covered the name tag at her throat, then her heart. "Best decision I never made. You made it when you didn't kill me." "No." His smile was that rare, genuine one. "You made it when you chose to see past the monster." Below, guards patrolled. Beyond, the city breathed, and in their arms, the impossible existed. Love forged in darkness. Partnership built on redemption. Proof that witnesses could become wives, and monsters could learn that some things deserved protection without possession. She'd seen everything that morning in Suite 2401, and she'd chosen to stay anyway,